Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today for this webinar with EDF. My name is Fern and I am part of the Student Success team at Target Jobs. And I'm really excited to be joined by some EDF representatives today who are going to be telling you a bit more about who they are and what they do, as well as sharing kind of their own experience within the company and answering any and all questions that you guys have for them. Just to kick a few things off, if you do have any questions for our representatives from EDF here today, you can pop them into the questions tab or you can put them into the chat, and they will get kind of back to them throughout the webinar as well and give you those answers both throughout and at the end also. But just to kick a few things off, I'm going to share a video that we have for you just to give you a bit of an insight into who EDF are and kind of what they're about. Amazing. So now I'm just going to pass over to Callum, who is going to kick off things for this webinar today.
Thanks very much. So hi everyone, my name's Callum. I'm an early years recruiter here at EDF. Today we're going to be going through the industrial placements, opportunities that we have available and just giving you a bit more information. I do apologise for this awful angle. I am having to do this on my iPad because we were having issues with our laptops. So apologies about that. I do have a tendency also to speak too fast. So please, if I am and you would like me to repeat anything, feel free to just pop a message in the chat and I will not be offended, please, and I will answer those for you. But if we could just move on, that would be wonderful. Perfect. So EDF, who are we? So we're Britain's biggest generator of low carbon electricity. We're building long-term solutions in the nuclear and renewable space so we can reduce our reliance on energy imports and help to prevent future energy price increases. Yes, we're predominantly nuclear and renewables business, but we're also a corporate business, not just focusing on engineering roles. We have roles across all areas of our business, including finance, HR, legal, and IT. We're based all over the UK and pride ourselves on our inclusive workforce. And as I touched on previously, I'm going to be going into a bit more detail about the process and the industrial placements that we have available this year. So first stage, this is the recruitment process. So first stage is going on to the website to find the job that you would like to apply for, complete the online application form. You'll then go through the CV sifting process, through to the online testing, through to video interview. Then you'd either be invited to an in-person or a virtual interview, normally taking place via MS Teams, and then into the offer stage. So I'll go into a bit more detail on the next slide just about what we mean by those areas. So CV sifting. So we will review your academic achievements based on our requirements. So for each role, our hiring managers will specify the disciplines they're looking for in the successful candidate. So we'll review those. They'll be detailed in the job advert as well, so you'll know exactly what you're applying for. Moving forward, if you make it through the CV sifting stage, you're going to online testing. So like I said, if you're successful after that, you'll be invited to do some online tests. These tests show us your key strengths, skills and behaviours and how these align to what we're looking for. Next stage will be the video interviewing. So the online testing, that's done on a platform that we use. So both that and the video interviews are done on separate platforms. One is Willow and the next one will be Arctic Shores. Next stage will be the video interviewing. So this is a one-way video interview, so it's not actually with a human, it's all like pre-recorded. And similar to the testing, the questions we'll ask will be designed to get the best out of you and understand your motivations for the role. If you're successful onto that, you will move into a face-to-face interview, either in person or via MS Teams. And you'll meet with individuals who specifically work in the role, and they will ask role-specific questions. So if you make it through to the interview stage here with EDF, we just wanted to give you a few pointers, just what we would be looking for from candidates. So we'd strongly recommend to always do your research, make sure you are prepared as you possibly can be. Think about why you want the job, alongside doing the research, really try and understand exactly why you're looking to work here at EDF. Stay engaged and motivated throughout the interview, if this is face-to-face or via MS Teams. Listen to the question, ask the interviewer if you wish for this to be repeated, or can we just move back to this one at the end? Absolutely not a problem. Be yourself and show your passion. Plan your day. We really advise you sort of arrive on time and always be prepared. Make sure you have examples of when you've used your strengths so you can advise them to the interviewers. Gone a bit too far there. So moving on, so want to have a taste of what it's like working for EDF and help us in our aim of achieving net zero? Apply for one of our 2025 industrial programs. We offer programs across a range of areas in all different business units. These locations can vary from the Southwest, Scotland, London. We are everywhere, everywhere in between. And I just wanted to pop this in there because this is a nice statement which was from a recent industrial placement that was working within the resourcing team. So they just advise the resourcing industrial placement at EDF has been a unique experience, from supporting assessment centres to helping recruit our customer service advisors. No day is the same. This placement has enabled me to strengthen my relationship with stakeholders, benefiting my transition into a graduate role at EDF. So that was from Kaz, one of our industrial placements, who was actually in the team that I work with now. So yeah, like I said, I've worked for EDF now for just over 2 months. Absolutely love it here. The benefits are incredible. The people are amazing. No day's the same, and it's really enjoyable job. So, but if you do have any questions throughout, feel free to pop them in the chat box. Like I said, I do speak at 100 miles an hour, so if you want me to repeat anything, I'm more than happy to do so. But either myself or one of the guys will be able to answer any questions you've got. But I believe now I'm going to hand over to Imogen.
Thank you, Callum. Next slide, please, Fern. So, hello everyone. Firstly, sorry if you can hear any background noise. I am on site at the moment, which is also why you can't see me, because I'm using a PC, so I don't have a webcam, unfortunately. But hopefully you'll be able to tell what I look like from the couple of pictures I've included. So, I did an industrial placement year way back in 2018. So I studied chemical engineering at Surrey University. So I joined there in 2015. In my third year of uni, I did an energy module. So this kind of covered all topics of energy production. But one of the sections was about nuclear energy. And I found it really interesting. And luckily, at the same time, my uni actually sent out a list of possible placements that we could apply to. So when I joined uni, it was like an integrated placement year. So I knew from the start that I wanted to do a placement year. So they sent out this list, and EDF was included in this list. And I had no idea what EDF did before getting that list. And once I found out they were involved with nuclear, I was like, okay, I'm going to apply to that. Luckily, I got the position. So I did my placement year at Sizewell B Power Station. So my placement year was, at the time, it was called Nuclear Science and Engineering. I don't know if it's the same now. But yeah, basically, I got to go to Sizewell B Power Station, which is in Suffolk, for a year. And I'll talk a bit more about it on the next slide. But after that, I then went on to join the EDF graduate scheme. So I went back to uni after my placement year, did my master's, and then did the graduate scheme, which was a year. And I then moved into my permanent role, which is in commissioning at Hinkley Point C. So in total, I've worked for EDF for about 5 years. moving around different places as well. So on the grad scheme, I got to move around different power stations and in different teams. So yeah, that was really good. Next slide, please, man. Yeah, so going back to my placement year, my position was in design engineering. So design engineering are essentially responsible for modifications to plant. So this could be the addition of new plant or the removal of redundant plant, or if we need to make any major change to plant, then design engineering are responsible for authoring engineering changes. So these are basically kind of reports in a safety case style that demonstrate how we're going to conduct a modification to plant without affecting nuclear safety. So that's what I did. So obviously, when I started off, there was quite a lot of learning to be done, and I was under mentorship the whole time. But once I got into it, I was given my own engineering changes to author, and quite a lot of responsibility as time went on, which was nice. Another thing that I got to do in this team was represent engineering at planning meetings. So at Sizewell, they had 13-week look-ahead meetings, which was basically a way for the whole of station to one representative from each team to meet together to plan what work was going to be done in 13 weeks, which might sound like a long time to plan in advance, but when there's that many different jobs going on, it's definitely necessary. So my role here was to represent the engineering department and give them an update on how the engineering change that was required for a certain job coming up was going, and if we needed any support with it. And then another thing that I got to do quite a lot was go on plant walk downs, just either helping out people in my team or if it was necessary for the engineering change that I was involved with. So that was really good. And there's a picture of me there on the left in a nice Tyvek suit doing an inspection in a tank. Next slide, please, Fan. So I just thought I'd put some things down about what I think is a benefit of a placement year. So firstly, lots of training, which I know sometimes can be a bit of a chore, but I would say the training that I got to do in my placement year was actually quite exciting. They put you through a systems course. So depending on which power station you're at, the course is different, but it was I think it was 3 days long, and it basically taught you kind of a high level overview of the systems and how the power station works, which was really interesting. And it was nice to see kind of the theory behind the work that you were actually doing day to day. Opportunity to work in different teams as well. So obviously I was based in design engineering for the whole year, but throughout that time I got to shadow other teams. So I spent a week with the maintenance teams, going out on plant and actually doing maintenance. I also spent a week with operations. So this meant I could shadow the op techs out on plant, seeing what they did day to day. And then I also got to spend a few days in the control room, seeing what the reactor operators did. And so I did a little bit of shift work in that time as well. Got to experience the Sunday roast dinner that the whole ops shift team had as well, which was really nice. Definitely a friendly environment. So, and as I said, since being on my placement year, I've worked at a few different stations as well, and now I work at Hinkley Point C, and every team I've worked in EDF has been really friendly, really welcoming. They support you when you need it and are always keen for you to go and experience different things if you see an area of the station that you want to go and have a go at working in. They've been more than happy to help. And then another thing, focusing again on the placement year, is when I was there, at least, we did quite a few networking sessions with other placement students and grads. So early careers, when I was an IP, organised a trip to the national grid. We did a 2-day training course in at Cannington Court, which is like the EDF training hub in Somerset. So that was just a way to meet all the different industrial placements that were in my year, which was really nice. I didn't include this on my slide, but also probably important to note that they give you a handover period. So if you're thinking, oh my gosh, it's going to be so much to learn and I'm not going to be able to pick it up, they definitely ensure that you're kind of in the right place for learning, and you don't need to worry about picking up new things, because they don't expect you to know everything. Definitely the training is really good. So that was it for me, and I think I'll take questions at the end if anyone has any. Thank you.
Hi everyone, I'm Maria Dina. Can you please go to next slide, please? Yeah. So I study business with human resource management at the University of West of England. So I started my HR placement in September. So it's nearly been 2 months since I've joined. So about my role, so the HR department at EDF, there are like several sub-teams. So I work across 2 of them, HR resourcing and experienced hires recruiting team. So to give an insight about my day-to-day tasks, so initially I was shadowing my team members to learn about the process, and I was also given independent tasks to complete. So I'm responsible for analyzing data and providing summaries of candidates and hiring managers' experience. So I also help my manager with a research project. So I'm currently gathering information about the recruitment scheme and reward management. So, and I do maintain and review internal EDF website. And on the other hand, with experienced hires team, I was assigned a buddy. So she was really helpful. I just want to point out that. So we went through like different stages of recruitment process together. And over the past few weeks, I've taken like campaign notes, and I also write job adverts and make screening calls. So it's just been like nearly 2 months, but I already had like so much chance to work on various projects, and I was given like numerous opportunity to improve my skills. And I feel like this was the main reason why I decided to do a placement, because I wanted to understand what HR do like in a day-to-day task, and want to gain some hands-on experience. So I really wanted to understand which side of HR aspects I really enjoy and what not. So that will help me to build my career path. So but working at EDF is something I'm really proud to say, because I'm not saying just for namesake, because I genuinely feel that they are creating an inclusive and diverse workplace environment for everyone, especially working in the recruitment team. I can visibly see the measures my colleagues take to create a equality in the recruitment process. I just want to point out that my team members are supportive and kind, so they're always willing to help me out if I run into any difficulties or need some advice, whether it can be work related or not. So this was a driving factor when I was in a confusion, like if I wanted to do a placement or not, and what company I wanted to do placement. And EDF really stood out because when I've read like a lot of positive reviews on job listing websites, so how they treat their employees, and I wanted to work in a place where I know I can be myself and come out of my comfort zone. So which is why I applied for EDF. And at EDF, they just don't focus on work. It's more about how we make most of this opportunity. So they offer a variety of ways for us to develop ourselves. For example, they have free access to LinkedIn Learning, and I've just completed like few courses over there, like how to write professional email. And they also have a lot of networking opportunities. So I just added an image over there, so to see like what societies are running. So at the moment, so I joined the Women's Network, Race and Industry Placement Society. So they hold sessions every couple of weeks, and I attend whenever I can. It's just a great way for us to meet people from different business areas and to make friends. And in terms of my working hours, I'm a remote worker based in Bristol. I work full-time, 37 hours a week, and I usually go to office once in a week, and that's my office over there. And to summarize, these 2 months have been fantastic time for me, and I do strongly encourage everyone to do a placement year with us. It's just a great chance for you to understand what you enjoy doing and also to gain some hands-on experience. Yeah, thank you so much, and I'll pass on to Matthew now.
Hello, so my name's Matt, and I'm currently a supply chain graduate at EDF, but obviously I didn't start like that. I did a placement first time round. So next slide, please. So I was at university studying business management at UCLan in Preston, and I was about halfway through my second year, and I just didn't know where my course was going at all. I couldn't really see a goal at the end of it where I wanted to end up career-wise, and I just decided that instead of wasting my time, I wanted to maximize the opportunities that my degree offered by choosing to do a placement. So I began looking for placements, and nothing particularly stood out. But then I saw one for Hinkley, which is the nuclear construction project that EDF are undertaking at the moment, and it caught my eye, and I decided that that was the type of placement that I wanted to go for. And it was in the Employment Affairs Unit, which is a team that are trying to basically bring people onto this project. And so I applied for that, and I got offered the placement. And I think what stood out about this placement the most was the scale of the project and the importance of the work that I'd be doing on a project the size of Hinkley. You know, as you can see on the picture in the bottom corner, it's an absolutely colossal project, and something that I was really excited to be a part of. So next slide, please. So whilst on placement, I think it was so valuable for me in terms of the skills that I was able to pick up from doing it. You know, you're being thrown into a professional environment where you're around managers and people far senior to yourself at the time, and you feel a bit like a rabbit in headlights, but it's just the perfect opportunity for yourself to develop whilst you're in the middle of a degree. Because I just found learning at university was really difficult when you can't apply it to real life work. And until you have that experience, I don't think university can properly prepare you for real life work, which was what was so beneficial about this placement. And like it says there about having some amazing opportunities over the year, like as you can see, that's me with Keir Starmer when he came to visit Hinkley Point, and I got the chance to chat away with him for a few minutes before he got pulled away. But it's just opportunities like that that you'd never get just staying at uni and doing your 3 years and then trying to find work at the end of it. So the year gave me a real chance to find out what I wanted to do in the future. And the thing I noticed was that I grew a real passion for nuclear energy. And the more I found out about Hinkley Point and what it's going to offer to the country in terms of like providing energy for 6 million homes in the southwest, I just found that fascinating. And my placement didn't focus too heavily on nuclear, but that made me realize that nuclear was a career path that I wanted to go down, which is why I spoke to my manager whilst I was on placement, and she helped me get in contact with certain managers who worked in the nuclear side of the business and gave me the chance to speak to them about potential career opportunities in the future. So that just shows the kind of support that I was given throughout the placement. And I think that's what puts EDF ahead of a lot of other companies. The support systems that are in place are just brilliant. So over that whole year, it gave me the chance to decide on a graduate scheme, which is in supply chain, that I wanted to apply for when I left uni. So if I could have the next slide, please. So then going back to uni, I knew what I wanted to do in the future, which, you know, before going on placement, I had no idea about. So I had a complete change in focus whilst I was at uni. Things that I was being taught in classes made sense to me and I could apply them better. And the whole placement just completely enhanced my knowledge, enhanced my drive, my motivation. And I ended up getting a first, which I wasn't expecting before the placement. And then after applying for this nuclear supply chain graduate scheme, I was offered the role, and I've come back down to Somerset in September, and I'm on a 2-year graduate scheme now with EDF. And I look at other people who are on the same degree course as me who haven't found permanent roles after leaving, and honestly, without this placement, I don't know where I'd be. But I'm in a job that I'm really happy with with a career path in mind. And that's all thanks to doing a placement with EDF. So hopefully in 2 years' time after this scheme, I'll be a commercial manager, which is where I want to be. So I think that just gives you an idea of the difference that just biting the bullet and saying yes to a placement can do to your whole future career. Like, it's completely changed the trajectory of my life, probably. So yeah, that's it from me, but happy to take any questions at the end.
Cool, thanks so much. So you're back with me for the moment. We are hopeful Jack will arrive. I think he's just running a little bit behind in one of his meetings. So for the moment, we're going to do the Q&A a bit earlier. If there are any questions after Jack's, if he does manage to make the webinar, of course, we can go back to those, but feel free to go ahead and ask any questions in the chat box for any of us. We are more than happy to answer anything that you've got, any questions or anything about the roles, any information you need. We are open to any questions, so feel free to pop them in the chat box. Cool, thanks so much for the first question regarding the role. Would you say your role is quite hands-on or more of a desk job? So I'll hand over to Imogen, Matthew, and Maria to answer this one, because obviously with me being a recruiter, it's a bit different. But guys, if you could go ahead and just answer that would be wonderful.
I'm happy to take this one on if that's all right.
Of course you can.
Yeah. So my role is quite desk-based because I'm working in supply. Well, the placement was actually, I'll talk about the placement. It was mainly desk-based because it was working with the employment affairs, and you spend a lot of time in offices, but you're still speaking to people. It's not just sat behind a computer tapping away and not speaking to anyone, but you also, because you're working on a nuclear project, you get the opportunity to go and work on site for some days. You'll have to meet people on site. You'll take walks around the power plant. So it's, I'd say with EDF, it's fairly blended. You'll be predominantly behind your desk, but it's also role dependent. So if you join as a science and engineering placement student, I'm sure you'll be far more hands-on than what I was in my placement role. It's quite role specific, I think, is probably the best answer I can give, really. But you won't be bored on an EDF placement, I can assure you that.
Thanks, Matthew. That's great. So the next question is, during the industrial placement, how is our progress assessed and tracked? So Maria or Matthew or Imogen, are you able to just comment on that one? Do you have regular catch-ups and things with program leads and hiring managers throughout the process?
I can start. So in my placement year, similar answer to the last question, I think it's probably placement specific. But with the team I was in, they had a kind of new starter training plan. So this was for placement students or anyone else. So literally any new starter in their team, they had the same plan, which was quite nice, really, because it made you feel like you were part of the team in the same way everyone else is. So I mentioned a couple of the trainings that I did on that, but yeah, in my placement, I got assigned to a supervisor who was in design engineering too. So they would kind of day to day doing a very similar job to what I was doing. So he was on hand to answer any questions I had at any point, basically. But yeah, we would just occasionally ad hoc go through that training plan together. And then I also had a few things that I needed to do throughout the year that my uni set me. But again, Sizewell/EDF were very accommodating with that. Hosted my university mentor as well. So yeah, hope that answers it.
Perfect, thanks so much. So welcome, Jack. I think what we'll do now is just let Jack run through his section, and then we can carry on with the Q&A a bit towards the end. But please do continue to pop those messages in. Thanks so much for the questions so far. And I'll hand over to Jack to just go through his area.
Okay, amazing. Thank you, everyone. Sorry, I'm a little late. I'm attending a training with my team. That team is the Human Factors team. So I thought I'd begin with what is human factors? It's a question I get a lot. Human error is estimated to account for about 80 or 90% of all industrial accidents. And it's easy to stop there and say, people make mistakes. But why do people make mistakes? I've included these two stovetops as a simple example. Let's say I want to turn the burner on and heat up the pan. On the burner on the left, I'm not sure which dial controls the bottom burner. Do they run top to bottom to top? Maybe they have little icons next to them, but maybe those icons have worn off. What if I'm tired, I'm in a hurry? I'm likely to make a mistake. I'm likely to perform a human error. But if we look at the stovetop on the right from the same manufacturer, it's much clearer. The dials here mirror the layout of the burners. I'm much more likely to make the right choice and turn on the correct burner, no matter how tired, hurried I am, no matter how worn the paint is. And so this is a design on the right that supports the human user, and that's what human factors is all about. Human factors is, I have a definition here, the study of how people interact with systems and technology and the application of that knowledge to make them more comfortable, more efficient, and safer. And so what we have on the right there is a gentleman in the control room of a nuclear plant. And here it's not a matter of starting the wrong burner and potentially having like a kitchen fire, but things that are much more serious than even that. So at EDF, Human Factors is a distinct team within the Nuclear Operations Department. That means that we work with all of the plants nationwide. We work across commissioning, so new build, nuclear operations, and decommissioning. And that means that we have a very kind of interesting and diverse workload. Could I get the next slide, please? The next slide asks about why I have chosen to do this 12-month placement. And like I said, it's a challenging, varied year. I'm fitting a lot into these 12 months, including working on writing and reviewing operating instructions that OpTechs and control room operators use to do important tasks, designing human-machine interfaces, like in the example I showed, performing safety assessments, determining whether something's safe or not. That's currently the training that I'm in, is how to conduct a nuclear safety assessment. I'm going to be observing some simulations. I'm going to be lucky enough to visit a few of the sites over the course of the year. And so over this 12 months, I'm going to be learning more than I could anywhere else. It's going to kind of springboard me into an exciting career, I hope. And so on that note also, if I could have the next slide, please, I'd like to talk briefly about my experience with the IP and my future ambitions. So far, I've been looking at operating experience, which is lessons learned across all the different plants, both within EDF and worldwide, and conducting a human reliability analysis. And I'm also working on a database of human factors issues on the new build HPC there on the right, so that we can track these issues as they come up and begin to address them. It has been great. Everyone has been lovely. There's plenty of work for me to do, and I'm finding it all very interesting. So if you're interested in human factors, including people probably from a psychology background, a design background, or even an engineering background, and if you're curious, I'm really quite enjoying it. And I know for a fact that several members of the team began their careers as IPs themselves. So it is an exciting way to get started at EDF and in your career more generally. And that's it from me. Thank you.
Perfect. So we'll just go back to some of the questions that we've got. I know there's a few we did manage to answer, but one of them is, are students given opportunities to visit/work at different EDF branches or sites? So I'm currently working through the IPs. I think at the moment we've got, when I say IPs, industrial placements, I think at the moment we've got about 103 roles, some which are live already, some which aren't, some are in the process of going live. So, and some do allow sort of staying elsewhere and moving to different locations and things like that. It all depends on what the role itself will be, but I would strongly advise have a look on the website. and it will show any that are of interest of you. It will show you if you do move about. We make it quite clear in the adverts if you need to move about for the role, or if it's one that's just based in one location. But the next one, I'm studying chemical engineering and I would like to become a chartered engineer in the future. Do you know if this is something that a career with EDF could help with? Of course, yeah, I would strongly advise. We do have a lot of science and engineering roles that have gone available as well. So absolutely do have a look at the website. I would like to say that I've got some of the roles, but with there being 103, some live, some not live, there are still some to come. So if there isn't any at the moment that are of interest, by all means do keep an eye out on the website, because there will be roles in the near future. Just going to go for some more of these questions. Bear with me just one moment. Let's have a look here. How many applicants are accepted for each location? Great question, really, really good question. Again, if you have a quick look onto the website, any that are of your interest, requirement numbers across the board they change throughout. Some require 2, some require 3, some require 6, some require 10. So I would strongly advise get the application in when you can, and the guys will be in contact with you once the CV and stuff's been sifted. But numbers vary across the board. There's so many different business units in so many different areas. So they all vary, unfortunately. So I wouldn't be able to answer that one. But like I say, strongly advise have a look at the website. See if there's any of interest for you. We've got email addresses as well that you can contact us on there if you do have any specific questions, which go through to the team that deal with the sifting of the CVs and things like that. So if there are any additional questions in that respect, by all means, feel free to reach out and ask those. I've got another one here. Recently got an interview. If we're doing interview and I'm applying for placements, chemical engineering student, is there any specific questions they would ask? Question set. So what we've done this year, we're using a company called Arctic Shores for the video interview. So, and the questions are very bespoke this year and tailor-made to the placement. So it will be regarding the chemical engineering. It will be very chemical engineering based, the questions that are asked, whereas before it was quite open, based on the job that you applied for. So it will be very specific to chemical engineering. I'm not sure on sort of specific questions, but it's tailor-made to reflect the program itself. So there will be quite a few chemical engineering questions in there. I think I'm losing track of these ones. Is that everyone, I think, from my end? Can anyone else see any questions that I've missed at all? Guys, can anyone see any more questions? Is there anything I've missed off?
One has just come in now.
Understanding graduate scheme, does company help? Yeah. Oh, I'm not too sure about that.
I can help to answer this because it kind of follows on again from another one which I've answered on the chat. So this is kind of more relevant to the grad scheme than a placement year. But with the grad scheme, EDF do assign you a chartership mentor. So this person will be chartered themselves in the same discipline that you are aiming to become chartered in. So for me, it was chemical engineering. So what this means on the grad scheme, I don't know if the format's changed now, but I'll just say what it's like on my grad scheme. At the end of each placement, so in the year, I did 6 different placements, 2 to 3 months each. At the end of each one, we had a assignment review form to fill in. So depending on which department we were in, we basically had objectives that we had to complete within the 2 to 3 months, and then kind of provide some evidence as to why we think we completed them. And there was always a section for chartership. So our form had to be signed off by our chartership mentor as well. Obviously, there's not always going to be something that you did within those 2 to 3 months that contributed towards chartership. So more often than not, to be honest, you won't have done anything because you wouldn't be in the team for long enough. But yeah, you are given a mentor that can help you. And I came off the grad scheme 4 years ago, and my chartership mentor still talks to me. So once you get assigned them, even once you leave the grad scheme, you can carry on talking to them. However, I would say it is very much down to you to drive your chartership. I'm not even going to pretend that I've put effort into this, because I really have not, and my chartership, to be honest, has not gone anywhere. So the facilities are there, but you have to use them. No one will chase you to get it done. Hope that helps.
Thank you so much. I did see one previously, just in regards, I believe someone's looking to graduate and asking if they can apply for a placement role. Absolutely. Yeah, more than welcome to apply for that. If you're looking to finish the program, you're absolutely able to apply for that. It doesn't matter how long ago it was or anything like that. Feel free to apply for one of the positions that we have available. Got another one here. What kind of projects do engineering students typically work on? How much responsibility is given? Is there anyone, Jack, Matthew, Imogen, anyone able to answer on that one?
Yeah, I can answer. So as I said, in my placement year, I was responsible for writing engineering changes, and it started off with kind of basic things like a flow transmitter was broken, and we obviously, because power stations are quite old, the original manufacturers might not exist anymore, so you have to write a justification as to why you could use an alternative. So it was typically things like that towards the start. However, as time goes on, you definitely get given more exciting things. So, for example, I'm trying to explain this as high level as possible, but in the reactor building at Sizewell, there is a machine that transfers the fuel assemblies from the reactor building into the fuel building. And when Sizewell was at power, as in not on an outage, so generating electricity, the machine is kind of, there's a switch that means it can't work, and this kind of was causing a lot of difficulties for operators during power. So I got the chance to write an engineering change to add a switch in a panel to overcome this issue. So, and I know a couple of my friends got given similar levels of projects to work on. So they definitely do throw you in and get you involved with things that they themselves would be doing. Just kind of, you're treated like anyone else, really, which is really nice.
Yeah, I would echo that and say that, like, I am not doing things fully independently. I'm working with the kind of whole group or as part of a team. But I'm definitely doing real work on a day-to-day basis. I'm not just kind of sitting and observing or twiddling my thumbs. Yeah, I'm doing real work and passing it back and forth with more experienced people and learning from them more than anything.
Great, thank you so much. So I think, from what I can see, if I've missed any, please feel free to put it in again. They're coming in quite thick and fast in both the chat function and the question function. So please feel free, if I've not touched on it, to pop it back in, and we will be sure to answer that. But I just really wanted to ask some of the panel some questions, just about how they're finding it with EDF, just to try and get a bit more of an understanding from them. So open to Jack, Imogen, and the others. What skills or knowledge do you feel you've developed the most so far during your time at EDF?
I think you said my name first. I'm happy to give that a go. I am. I'm based in Gloucester Business Park, just to give people some reference. So I'm with the team the whole the whole day, and the things that I'm picking up mostly are the actual kind of practical skills and methodologies that I would use in the real job. Whereas in kind of school, in university, you learn a lot of big picture things. You don't have as much of a chance to do nitty gritty detail work. Here, I am constantly asking people and learning and doing the real methodologies that are used in industry. So there's a bunch of them in human factors. I'm aware that's quite niche, so I won't go into all of them. But the things that I've been spending most of my time learning and doing have been applying real methodologies to real pieces of work.
Thanks very much, Jack. Has anyone else got an answer to that one?
So I think like I've managed to get like a good timing, because when I was back at uni, I feel like I struggled a lot to do a lot of multiple tasks at the same time. But now after starting my placement, I feel like I'm able to be more organized and fit in a lot of things in a day.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Really, really appreciate that. So I've got another question for the panel. So how did EDF's graduate program help you transition from an academic environment to a professional one? This is open to the floor.
I think I answered that in what I was saying about how my understanding of my degree and the way that I'm able to communicate with people, and I think doing the placement helped with the application process for future jobs, just because you know how to present yourself and how to deliver an answer in an interview question, and I think you just don't get practice like that just at uni. So for example, on my placement, I did a mock interview with my manager and mentor at the time, because they were basically gearing me up for when I inevitably applied for a graduate role. And I'm going to say I did absolutely terribly in my mock interview, but the feedback I got from my manager on how to improve made such a huge difference. And then when it came to the real assessment centre last winter, I feel like I did a whole lot better, and it's ended up helping me get a graduate role now.
Cool. Thanks very much. Anyone else want to provide an answer to that one before we move on?
I would just say, I think being in a role is just completely different to uni. There's so many things that you'll just only be able to improve on from being in a job, like professional skills. So obviously when you're in a job, you have to talk to people all the time, email people, attend meetings, and it might sound like really straightforward things that you just do as a human, but actually it takes quite a lot of practice, and getting thrown in and like being forced to do all those things is really good experience. So like presentation skills, report writing, I feel like I've improved on those sort of things that you might even think are covered in uni, since being in a role. So yeah, just kind of generic professional skills, I would say.
Definitely. No, really, really appreciate that. Cool. So another question, I'm really, really sorry, but how do you think the energy industry is evolving, and how can young professionals play a role in driving innovation? Anyone able to answer that one for us?
I can answer this from my perspective. So obviously, as I said, I've had the opportunity to work in various different power stations, and so I have seen firsthand that quite a lot of the people that work in the energy industry are kind of at the stage of retirement. And so I would say, regarding how can young professionals play a role in driving innovation, I would say one of the things that we can do is just kind of go into every opportunity you're given with an attitude for learning. Obviously, we need to improve things as we go on, but the only way we can do that is have the kind of background knowledge needed. So that's one thing I would say, just take the opportunity you can from learning from people that have been there and done that, for want of a better phrase. Yeah.
No, definitely. No, that sounds amazing. Thank you so much. Cool. Is there any other questions from anyone at all? If there's, like I say, if we've missed any, please feel free to re-add them, because there was quite a few coming in at once. So I think managed to answer most of them, but if there are any, we do still have some time, so please feel free to pop them in.
There is one. Have we answered the question about the difference between entry-level roles and graduate schemes?
Oh, I don't believe so.
So BJ asked, what's the difference between entry-level roles and graduate schemes? Which one is more beneficial? And I think I could answer that one because obviously I'm on a graduate scheme now, and I've met people within EDF who are a similar age to me who have joined at an entry level. And I think the main difference with that, there is absolutely nothing wrong with an entry level role at EDF, and you can, like any role, you can work your way up. But I think with the graduate scheme, you've got that infrastructure and support in place that's just on a different level to any entry level role. Like you get given managers, mentors, buddies. There's a structured 2 years in place where, so for me over the 2 years now, I'm going to be, after 6 months at HPC, I'm going to be moving to Gloucester to see a different side of the business. And then I'll get the chance to go to visit sites such as like Heysham or Torness in Scotland. And I just think the opportunities are probably a lot broader, and you've got a lot more flexibility about where you move around within EDF if you join on a graduate scheme. I don't know if anyone else agrees with that, who maybe Imogen.
Yeah, I think that's spot on.
Cool, thanks very much. We've just had a question. What is the most important qualities EDF looks for during the application? So once the applications arrive, we do the CV sifting, which is where we review the application alongside the disciplines that the hiring manager is looking for. So that's the main things that they would look for, that would look to progress someone who's got the disciplines that they're looking for. Each role is very specific to what the hiring manager's aiming for. So the disciplines should be, in all of our roles, explained very clearly in the application what the hiring manager is looking for. There may be someone, when the applications do come in, if they do have any questions, the guys that review them, they will certainly come back to you and ask for a bit more clarification or something like that. But in regards to qualities, I'd probably say, yeah, absolutely, the disciplines they would be looking for, they're very, like I say, specific in what they're looking for. If you get through to sort of the interview stage as well, I know we've got quite a long process with the testing and things like that, but the interview process sort of virtually or face to face, it would be those things that I covered off. So engaged, making sure you're doing your research beforehand as well. Try and do as much as you possibly can, and really try and use real life examples of what you've done as well is a good one. Any questions that you need repeating, by all means just ask or follow up on the end, but just really try and attend on time, be positive, be engaged, and that's definitely something that I know they'll be looking out for, along with obviously those disciplines. Have I missed any more?
So there is a question about internship opportunities.
Oh, I didn't see that one. What was that one?
Yes, Samuel. Maybe I can just.
Oh, and the intern, right, for 3 months. I need to do an internship for 3 months from September. I would, Samuel, if you could just take a note of I'll pop our email address into the chat box for you, and if you could just pop that an email just with what you're looking for, because I'm not sure on internships at the moment, but send it across to us and we'll certainly look into that and speak to the relevant people for you. Let me just pop that in. I'll just type that in now.
While you do that, I see another question from Vijay, who says that they're in a master's degree but hasn't done a placement and wonders whether this affects their chances of getting a graduate job. I'm an IP, so this is not my personal experience, but I'm friends with several of the graduates. I don't know that any of them completed the IP before getting their graduate role, either here or elsewhere. So no is the answer to that one. As far as I know, I don't think not having done the placement reduces your chances of getting the graduate job.
Perfect. Thank you so much. And I think we are coming to a close now, from what I can see. Or have I missed any more questions?
I see one more that's just come through. Someone applied for an industrial engineering placement. Sorry, engineering IP, but didn't specify whether they would be doing solar, water, or nuclear. I just, again, from my experience, most of EDF's energy mix is nuclear. There are others, and I believe engineers do move around between them, perhaps. But I can say that I'm exclusively nuclear. I exist within the nuclear part of the business. I'm not sure if anyone else can weigh in on that.
Anyone else got any comments on that one?
Just from my experience, Callum, you might correct me because you'll probably know more about it, but I think in the first initial stage of application, it's quite a generic application. I seem to remember the science and engineering grad placement year was like really generic. You could be sent anywhere, and then as they filter you down like through the CV and then online testing, that's when they kind of put you best where they think you'll be suited.
Correct. No, completely correct. Yeah, that's normally what happens in that process. Like I say, there's quite a few roles that we have open. I've popped that email address in the chat anyway. By all means, if you do happen to have any questions, feel free, that we've not able to cover off today, feel free to pop them in there. But yeah, like you say, the science and engineering is quite broad, so it will just get a bit niche the further you get into the process. Absolutely. But like I say, we all really appreciate you attending today. We absolutely love our jobs here at EDF, and please take a look at the website. Any questions you have after this, please feel free to reach out to us. But thank you all so much for attending today. We really, really appreciate it.
Amazing. I just wanted to jump on before we kind of say a final goodbye, and just say again a huge thank you to all of our reps at EDF for joining us today on this webinar, and giving a bit of an insight about their current experiences and the challenges, and kind of insight into EDF as a company as well, and going through their application process and the opportunities that they do also have. I also wanted to make you all aware as well about a current feature that we have on our website, which is called Grad Sims. It's a new feature to our website, and it gives you the opportunity to kind of see what the role would be like within kind of EDF as a company. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add it in to the chat here. And I would definitely recommend that you all go and take a look at this Grad Sims for EDF. It gives you a great insight into actually what the role would be like, and kind of gives you a bit more of a feel for the company and kind of what you can expect as well, which would be a great starting point if you are thinking about doing any kind of experience within the company. So I'm going to pop that in right now. There we go. You're more than welcome to go and click on it. But for now, I hope you all have a lovely rest of your day. And thank you so much again for joining.
Appreciate you all. Thank you so much for attending today. Take care.